Welcome, everybody. This is Dr. Ben Pearl with FitFoot U. Today, I am honored to have two guests that were classmates in the class of 1988 at Pennsylvania College of Podiatric Medicine. Welcome, Bret and Gene. We got Bret Ribotsky and we got Gene Mirkin. They both did residency programs and settled in different areas. I'll let them explain where they did. Let's start with you, Bret. But the big question I want to say on everybody's mind is this 4.5% pay cut for surgery, and in particular, I think podiatry, it's hitting pretty hard. How are we going to deal with that? And I want to hear from both of you.
Well, if you want to start with me, that's fine. But since I don't practice, I can tell you I don't really care. But I feel for each one of you because I've been through that story before. I've been through the 8% cut, the 6% cut. Don't you still have a sequestration cut of 1% that nobody ever took away, that they keep doing this? I haven't figured out why you keep giving in every moment of the day. As a single practitioner, you don't stand a chance on this earth. And that's why I feel very blessed to have an old classmate of mine, Dr. Mirkin, here, because he's figured out a solution how to bypass that, how to get around this no leverage position that you have. But my quick thing is practice, graduated there, did my first year residency in Philly at Jeffrey Hospital, did my second and third year in Salt Lake City with Dr. Greg Young. The Doxy Hatch program, came and worked for the Cleveland Clinic Foundation here in South Florida for a number of years, left in the mid-90s, started my own practice in Boca Raton, Florida, doing great, and then moved on and got injured when 2015 when I was volunteering with the Coast Guard. Spent a year in a wheelchair. When I got better, it was unique to go from doing the operation to actually having the operation. So I have the unique 360 of being the patient as well as the provider, as well as the educator. So I feel very blessed in that perspective. And we're sitting here today. I do a lot of consulting work. I've been involved in mergers and acquisitions with major hedge funds and equity positions and helping groups develop their EBITDA and developing their positions. So when they sell out, they make a lot of money and they put some bank in the pocket. So
before we jump over to Gene, Bret, talk to us about the extrapolation of that 4.5%, because I think that's something a lot of people don't realize. You did the math.
Wow. For the podiatrists who don't understand math, if your office takes home 65, your overhead 65%. So let's just go for the heck. You make $600,000 a year, and 2/3 of it is your overhead. That's 400,000 goes away. So now you got 200,000 left over. If your practice is all based on a Medicare reimbursement, well, if you take a 4% or 5% pay cut reduction off the top line, that's 5% of the 600,000, which is 30,000. So now you just take in a 15% pay cut. You didn't take a 4.5. Your landlord doesn't get less money. Your employees don't want to take home less money. Your vendors aren't giving you that same discount. It's all coming out of your pocket. You're the last one holding that piece of the pie. So when you see a discount, every percent really counts, because I used to love 4 o'clock patients because that was my money. The patients up until 4 o'clock covered the overhead. At 4 o'clock, I got to take home that patient's money.
And that's not even counting the rising cost of overhead, everything that we do. So Gene, you formed a big group. Tell us about FASMA. For those that don't know about FASMA, it's one of the largest group podiatry institutions in the lower 48. Tell us about that formation and how that economy of scale has helped combat some of this, and things that, if you're not in one of those bigger groups, that you might suggest.
Well, let's take it from the 4% level. Bret's math is spectacular. You have to play that back in slow motion and write it down to follow it, but he's right on cue. And there's two ways to look at this. Boy, I'm taking a hit and I'm just going to have to suck it up and I'm going to make less money, or I'm going to fight back. And you got to figure out how you're going to fight back. And you fight back by saying, first of all, if the other insurance companies follow suit and they pay you a percentage of Medicare, now they're going to pay you less when Medicare drops their rates. So it doesn't stop at Medicare. It's your other contracts as well. So you have to say, okay, you are the lowest payer. I am going to drop you because you are paying me way too low and I'm worth more than that. So I'm going to drop you, and I'm probably going to take a hit because I dropped an insurance company. But if I'm getting 60% or 70% of Medicare, I'm not going to miss that, because I might fill that spot with a payer who does better than that lower paying below Medicare insurance company. And now I'll see one patient for the 2 I had to see that I dropped. If that makes sense. That's number one. Number two, you're going to say, I got some time in my schedule. What can I do? We did a little studies, an unofficial study. We looked at our production when we see 40, 50 patients a day, and we looked at people who were seeing 20 to 30 patients a day. And there's a sweet spot where you will see too many people and you're too busy getting people out of your office. So I dropped my lowest payer, maybe not Medicare, but my lowest payer that paid a percentage of Medicare. Now I have a slot in my schedule. I'm going to spend a little more time with these patients. I might push DME, and my DME is going to bring me far more money than the insurance company that I dropped because they were paying so poorly. And I can make up for my 4%. And I'm a happier guy because my schedule might be a little lighter, but I'm more productive and I'm doing more for my patients. So that's the first way you can fight it. Take that downtime that you have because you dropped the low payer, be more productive with the people you have. Second thing is you have to try to leverage yourself with other people around you. Our profession is loaded with geniuses. There are all kinds of Bret Ribotskys out there that if you sit down and listen to them, you're going to get a pearl in there, Ben Pearl. You're going to catch something that makes you feel good and say, hey, I wasn't doing that. So we have a group that we get together with in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. I think there's maybe 30 plus providers. And we get together quarterly and we have meetings and we brainstorm and we share. Imagine that, competitors, we share. Who does that in podiatry? By sharing, you'll catch that little thing you weren't doing and you might do something differently that's more productive, not just for your patients, but also for your practice. That's the second way. The third way is you go our route and you go with a super group. And super groups have their pluses and they have their minuses. If you can survive the statement, control is overrated. That's from my good buddy and my partner, Mike Trito. Control is overrated and you don't mind letting somebody else do things. It's amazing what can get done if you don't care who gets the credit for it. So we have in our super group negotiators. They go to the insurance companies. They try to show them what we do with our quality, our utilization, our review. And we say, we're saving you X amount of dollars by these things we do. We want a higher reimbursement. Not all of them will do it, but some will. And in numbers, when you get big enough, you can then say, if you don't give us more, we have all the provider control in this area. We will drop out of your plan. And you use your muscle of numbers to reimburse yourself at higher rates with these contracts that we get from these payers. Those are the three ways that I think you can do better than the 4% cut that comes. Of course, everybody that's listening has to learn to write their legislators. You have to learn to make yourself heard and be politically active. Otherwise, things don't change as well. And together, it makes a difference. Individually, it has very little effect.
Couple quick follow-ups before I jump back over to Bret. What about from your quality assurance and going through the payer status? Did you find as an example, here's getting into the weeds a little bit, a Medicare Advantage plan? Is that something you decided to keep? They are a little more tough to deal with sometimes with referral codes and so forth. What has been your group decision with something like that?
There have been some that we just refused to be a part of, and we said no. They asked us to join, and we said we will not do it, and we didn't. So you have to have the confidence and the backing to say no. And little by little, some of your worst payers may come around. Again, individually, it's very difficult to do as a 1 or 2 doctor group. It's not going to have a lot of muscle to say, I'm going to drop. And you'll drop, they'll say goodbye because there are other people who fill in. So it's collectively enough people learning to say no where their provider list drops so low they don't have service for their insured.
The other
Ben,
thing
I think we got to break up. Ben, before you get for that, there's only 3 ways to make money. And we almost need to throw them out so everyone knows it. You either need to see more patients. You need to have each patient buy more stuff or more services, or they need to come in more frequently. And if you got to keep those 3 things, and if you look at breaking up each one individually, how to get more patients is obviously marketing, advertising, whatever you do. But when they get in your office, offer more services. Look at the leg and say, maybe it needs a biopsy. Maybe there's something there that doesn't look right. I can't tell you. I think Bill Scheer has a great line, is that if you haven't seen a skin cancer, it's seen you. And you keep that in mind. And then frequency. When did this idea that we'll see people in a week, 2 weeks, when did the week become the thing? I know Gene and I, when we trained at the school, PCPM, before it was Temple University, Dr. So-and-so was only there on Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday. So we saw the patients the following week and we got in that habit. But if somebody comes in with an infected ingrown toenail on Tuesday, why not see them again on Thursday or Friday? Make sure they're better before they call you over the weekend and try to ruin your day. This 1 week thing we can clearly get rid of and start doing that way. So again, 3 ways to make money: more patients, sell more or offer more services, or increase the frequency. And increasing the frequency and more services are relatively easy. You got to work to get more patients, but the other stuff is relatively easy. And if you increase by 10% each one of those, you get 33% more money at the end of the year, and your overhead didn't go up. It's not going to cost you more to increase 10% utilization.
Well, I want to piggyback off that idea, Bret, right quick. So, for instance, today I saw somebody that had clearly a history of gout, did some drinking, had some rich foods, etc., and had a loose history of gout. And I scheduled him for Friday after getting a uric acid, doing a cortisone injection. He had resonance on the ultrasound, something called the double contour sign, which helped confirm gout.
Did you get a blood test?
Yes, of course. I did get a blood test.
So you ordered blood work. And you did the ultrasound.
And I scheduled him for Monday, but what I should have done.
You got the blood work back.
Yeah, is Friday, Thursday or Friday before the weekend. And that will help ensure patient compliance as well. And you're right, we get in that 1 week dogmatic thing. And I think that sometimes they will fall through if, let's say, the cortisone didn't work in the Colchris, and then he goes to the emergency room and they give him prednisone, and then he loses faith in you. So I
would have seen them. Today's Monday when we're recording this. So I would have ordered the blood work, seen them on Tuesday, given them the injection on Tuesday instead of taking the reduction, to make sure they didn't have diabetes and I'm not going to throw something out of whack. And then I'd see them back on Thursday. Let's see if the thing worked. So I got an extra visit in that week, and I provided outstanding medical care.
There's always the changing course opportunity too. So we could check in with him tomorrow, see how he's doing, and say, we've got your blood work.
Telemedicine visit. You can have a telemedicine visit with him tomorrow.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So, Gene, you were also talking about the leverage of groups. Sometimes in a group think situation, things work at glacial speed with, for instance, getting a DME product aboard. What would be some of the things that you think might help assist that glacial process? Because there's a lot of admin layers in the big groups.
Well, the bigger you get, the bigger those layers are, the deeper they are. And that's just a fact of life. So you can't fight that. But you have something, and it may not be the best thing, but if there's a code, we have it, and all of us can have it. You use that code until you can get it approved. And that, the give and take of a super group is you don't make rapid decisions and things don't change very quickly, but they will change if you can show that there's good use and, more importantly, a return on the investment.
Well, but Gene, you're running a business that's totally based on outcome results. Everybody wants your outcome. And then how much does it cost you to get to that outcome? And if you keep track of that and you keep happy people, I mean, you guys with a larger group can have an infrastructure where everyone walks out of their appointment. If they schedule an appointment, they walk into a little booth and they give a video testimonial. And you could wind up with 10,000 testimonials in a month, in no time.
Well, we've done that. We have, I'm sure everybody out there has something close to it. We had something where as soon as you left the office, you got your questionnaire, which led you to the reviews on Google, and boom, you're instantly on the website and things like that. The answer to Ben's question is there's a brace. We have it. It may not be the newest, latest, greatest, but there's a protocol to get these things on that work. We went through skin grafts. We almost lost our shirts on some of these skin grafts until we did the proper analyses and found out which one was getting paid, what the reimbursements were. So we've now limited on purpose how many graft companies we use and approve based on product success and the cost and return.
Pretty soon you'll become your own distributor of these. You go directly to the company, cut out the middle person. I don't know if you do that with MRIs or home health care or pathology labs or all the other ancillaries that are easy to pick up when you're a large entity.
Spot on. That's the ancillary service side that makes a difference.
And that's
we have our own pathology lab.
Make in another space.
Yes, correct. The idea goes back to you either have more services or you see more patients, et cetera. So that's exactly the benefit of a super group. Our super group in particular has decided to focus on podiatry as its core right now. I think our second bite people will probably go much further into the ancillary service field because we've tried to do the core base and work on production productivity in the offices. the next step for the second bite people to go to the next level will be ancillary services and things like that.
Have you taken center of excellences from, like, you have, I assume, a lot of doctors, 20, 30, 50, whatever you have these days, but there's probably one doctor who bills for a bunion code and does much better, or for heel pain does much better than somebody else. Go back and look for that center of excellence. How does that doctor generate more revenue for that problem with the same outcome?
So the beauty of a supergroup in our situation is everything is transparent. You can see what I bill, what I collect, how many patients I see, the average time per visit. We leverage our software data to every angle that we can. So if I see somebody who's doing 80 pairs of orthotics a month, I can go to that person's schedule. I can see what they're doing, how they're charting, how they're billing. And guess what? I might take some of those things, those pearls, those bend pearls, and incorporate it into my practice. Anybody can do that. And then on top of that, now we're starting to take best practices. And we want to have a cookbook that nobody has to follow, but make it available so that somebody who wants to follow a pathway which has been used, tested, and approved and successful can then follow it. And that's what we want to do for our young practitioners who come out of these high-powered programs that can reconstruct legs and ankles and things like that, but they don't know how to do the coding for a nail or a wart or things like that. If we have best practices and protocols, these people can be more successful, which makes the group more successful.
And then you can also leverage that with the insurance companies, showing that this is what it costs to treat this problem.
Well, here's an interesting story for you. We went to one of the big payers and we said, we would like to do a productions or outcome-based reimbursement schedule with you. And they were just ecstatic. And we went through this whole thing. We said, whatever you're spending on your diabetic care, we would propose you pay us a lower guaranteed fee per code. But if we save you X amount of dollars on your population in this area, we would like a percentage. And they came back to us 3 months later, and they said, we don't have the software to do that. We know they have the software to do that because they can tell us everything we could ever think of about our patient encounters. But they realized they'd be giving up way too much profit. So there's some truth in that.
Gene, I want to reel back to something.
Hospitalization.
Gene, I want to reel back to something you said earlier about practice reviews, and that is key in this world of people looking at the web. You say that sometimes you'll have patients do those reviews right while they're in the office. What mechanism, if I understood you correctly, what mechanism do you use for that?
We used a group called Binary Fountain, and it was spectacular because it drilled down to the level of front desk experience, medical assistant experience, doctor experience, and it would go through just 5 questions on how your visit was interpreted by the patient.
And then it sort of aggregates to the Google, let's say, a couple other review sites. Is that what it does as well?
Well, this one fed Google in particular. And so It would take you, if you gave a 4-star rating or above, it would take you right to that website and the patient could choose whether to fill it out or not. They didn't have to click on other things. It took them right there. We got live feedback that showed up on our web that our doctors, our staffing could see. We got summaries at the end of the month, ratings on every single area you could think of. We've since stopped that because we now have new software that says they're going to do it for us. And interestingly, we do feel like, and this is anecdotally, I don't have anything to support it, that our reviews dropped off considerably. If you look at our websites, they're not nearly as fresh as they have been, but we're told by our new software that that's going to change and we're going to have that same mechanism in place.
How do you, so again, you have them, most of the patients will do that review right in the office after the office experience? Or do they?
No, it goes right to their cell phone. It go either text, they give us a choice of text or email, and they would receive it through either mechanism.
Now my experience, and it's not quite as sophisticated, when we email or when we text the link to the reviews, and by the way, we have QR codes that we do, and that's
nobody does it. Everyone listens to one radio station, WIIFM. What's in it for me?
Absolutely, but we do not get the compliance, I would say, Gene, that you have, and you have the leverage.
You got to do it when they're there, Ben. You got to do it right when they're there. You got to have them look. They want to look good, so make them look good in front of an employee. Hey, do you mind if I hold your phone and do a video testimonial for you? There's easy things you can do.
The less they have to do, the higher your response. And so our return rate,
when you have them, once they get a bill, they don't love you anymore.
Good point.
Well, of course, but even to take the time to do, and we've all been this on the other end when the salesperson at Walmart or Home Depot asks us to do because
Podiatrists
we're
don't go
trying
to
to find our car in
Walmart.
the parking lot and pick up a sack of whatever we're carrying to work on our house. So I think everybody has that experience to some degree. So I like the of what you're saying.
And
Find a way to do
podiatrists
it.
go to Neiman Marcus. They go to Nordstrom's. They don't go to Walmart. We're doctors. I have a diploma. It says that.
I'm talking Home Depot, my friend, but I did mention Walmart, but Home Depot is more what I had at center of mind.
Okay.
Anyway, let's now take something of the creative side, and that is you, Bret. You've managed to do some creative ways to recruit patients. It may have worked real well then. How would you apply it to the pandemic? And I want to hear Gene's take on it in terms of some of those unique recruitment things that you did.
Well, I believe that people who hurt don't go anywhere. There's pain. I talked about for years, orthotics, heel pain. Who has them? Heavy people. I don't know if that's politically correct, but heavy people have them. And where do heavy people hang out? Tuesday night at Weight Watcher meetings. So why not send an employee to there or don't send donuts. They don't particularly like that. Okay, they really like that, but you don't want the people who run the office to know that. But you let them know that there are exciting things. People who are overweight, people who work in the mall, go to whoever, Simmons or whoever the group who runs the big mall in your community and say, listen, I'd like to do a paycheck stuffer and make a little card about foot pain. I used to when I did Meet the Masters, I had the radio show. So I had all that software. So Tuesday night, I did Meet the Masters. But Wednesday night, once a month, I spoke to all the employees who worked in the mall who had any foot questions about anything. So I made little 4x6 laminated cards talking about how great I was and how they need to participate. Because remember, IIFM, what's in it for me? I'm going to give them incredible value and it costs them nothing. So I would walk through the mall or have the kids go through the mall and hand out these little cards. And you'd get 30, 40, 50 people to call in on a Wednesday night. And you talk, they would tell you this hurts, that hurts, and you tell them, you give them suggestions. They love having access to the doctor. And especially if they work in the shoe department. They're selling people $1,000 shoes, Louis Vuittons, and all these ridiculous Gucci's and Pradas. Those people need orthotics. They need some mechanical device, and maybe orthotics isn't right for them. They need surgery. We can do calcaneal osteotomies. We can get you in those Louboutins if you want. It might not be expensive, but there's a way to do it. That's mall people. Then you go to who's your biggest employer in town. Often it's a hospital, a university. Everybody wants free stuff. So you give Gary Vaynerchuk came out with the thing called freemium. You want to give out incredible knowledge that's free, and then they come back to you. You become preeminent in your community. Gene is preeminent in his community. If somebody's foot hurts anywhere, they say, go see Dr. Mirkin, because he's built that idea. He's got a great personality. He's always happy. He smiles, and he provides outstanding care and outcomes for them. That's
Gene,
what it is.
Is that by reputation now, or are you finding that you guys are doing some of these community outreach events? What's been your latest new thing that you've, or continuing thing that you've done to have patient recruitment?
So when you think about how Bret just answered that question initially, it's enthusiastic, it's contagious, and everybody who's hungry, who's not happy where they are, who doesn't like that 4% cut that's coming, is going to need some of that enthusiasm to get out and do something. And so I made a little career change. January 1, I stopped working in a community I'd worked in for 32 years. And I was booked up 3 weeks in advance to get an appointment. And I was still squeezing people in when there was a problem. I made a gamble for a lifestyle change to come to where I live in Annapolis and work there and kind of start from scratch. It was an established practice. I took over where somebody else had left, but it wasn't anywhere near a full-time practice. Long story short, I had to go back to roots. I had to start doing stuff I hadn't done. And guess what? I started writing welcome to the practice notes to my new patients. I started writing thank you referral notes to the patients who sent me their family, their friends, their neighbors. I didn't start doing talks. I was ready to, but now I'm making that same kind of leap back into the busy schedule I had before because I'm doing things. And so my answer is everything Bret said is absolutely correct. You've got to be there for your patients. You've got to be enthusiastic. And it just depends on your comfort level. Some people don't want to go hand out cards. Some people don't want to talk in audiences. And our biggest struggle as a group is trying to get our younger practitioners to do a fraction of what Bret talked about, to write the notes of thank you to the patients.
But that's pillar one. I believe you got to, the more pillars you have, the greater your foundation, the greater your stability.
What are pillars 2 and 3?
So let's go through another pillar, marketing to doctors. The only time I'll spend money and really do anything is marketing to doctors, because why? Those are the people who are best. Go back, I'll give you a fun answer. I used to send out faxes to all the doctors, knowing that the doctor isn't the one who reads the fax, it's the staff, letting them know about, I'm offering free CPR classes, once a month in my office. All their staff needs CPR. So, they get the card for free. It cost me $30 with the American Heart Association. And I gave them all the cards and everyone came in. So that was a great thing you could do that way. Market to the doctors. Pick who the 10 biggest hitters in your community. The guys who control the referral basis, guys or gals who control that. And send them stuff. I used to send little flashlights. There's a company called Oriental Trading Company. You can buy all this little junk stuff and send them. You send these 10 guys a little flashlight saying, "Are you tired of your consults being in the dark? Think of me." Then 2 weeks later, they get a little toy yo-yo in the mail. And it would say, "You're tired of up and downs with your consults? Think of me." And it was funny because a lot of the doctors finally came over to me, and I practiced in Boca Raton. You got Dennis Frisch, who was president of APMA, Mark Block, who runs. There's a lot of Peppy Eisenfeld. There's a lot of very good doctors in the community who provide good care, who had long-standing relationships with people. But eventually, everyone got around that. They got these little toys. Doctors are kids. The little toys they love. And then when they started sending me patients, I stopped sending them toys, and they would stop me in the doctor's lab. Haven't gotten anything from you in a while. So I would go to Oriental Trading Company and buy 500 little, magnifying glasses. See up close your pathology. Think of me. So those are the things. You got to be cute. You got to be informative. What do we do as a society? Where do we spend our most money? We spend our most money in entertainment. And, they'll spend $500 million to make a movie to entertain you for 2 hours, to change your emotional thing. You go to a concert because it changes your viscera. You feel better. I mean, anyone can listen to the album. Billy Joel hasn't had a new album in 28 years? He sells out every single concert every month in Madison Square Gardens. What is he selling? He's not obviously selling the music. We all have the music. We all know the words by heart. You're selling the experience. And that's what you need to do. You need to sell the experience to the doctors' employees. You want to be preeminent in your community. You're the guy to go to. And if you don't want to do it, as Gene was saying, some of the newer doctors, it's not my thing, I got to go home and take the kids, then you outsource it. You figure out what it is, you find objectable measurements, and you hire somebody else to do this for you, to put it together so you look good. I mean, Anderson Cooper was pretty boring when he got on CNN, but at the beginning, but remember, he's a Vanderbilt. He's got plenty of money, so he paid an advertising agency and a marketing company to do a lot of stuff to make him come out really well. And as a result, it has snowballed to give him an incredible career. I'm not sure if I like what he says, but he's an incredible career in what he's built himself.
It's about staying in touch. It's about always reinventing yourself. It's about touching the people who are going to touch you, and you got to communicate. So it doesn't matter if you're
careful where you touch them.
I want to take some of that Bret Ribotsky enthusiasm, and I remember watching Wide World of Sports, Evel Knievel, when he crashed, saying, "I'll never do another jump stunt ride again," with his cane and, real shaky voice. Bret, you had a very serious injury, and yet you're, magnified enthusiasm. Tell us how you did it. How did you get from that?
What's my choice? I can either wake up in the morning and realize, holy cow, this hurts. That hurts. I can focus on what hurts. Where your focus is, energy goes. So you can flow into something. I get up every morning and try to walk, and some days I'm not good at it, and some days I am. I got to find somebody else to blame. It can't be my fault, right? The darn orthotics, which are
what did you learn as a patient?
Well, I learned as a patient that most doctors spend 90% of their time figuring out how to get paid and 10% of the time figuring out how to take care of you. Everything is about the chart, all the people who call you up, making sure you show up. Everything is generally around how they can run their business, not how to make you better. And the occasional person who kind of does something to try to say, how do I make you better, stands out. I mean, I've said for years, go get a phony email address at Google, something, and go sign up for all the good marketers in your community, the chiropractors, the plastic surgeons, the dermatologists. And once a week, once every 2 weeks, look at what they send out. Everything is patient focused. Everything is about how to make you better. How to prepare for graduation, how to look good for weddings. Not about, how great my doctor is and that he went to another seminar and now he knows, there's a new fancy lapoplasty. I did Lapiduses pretty well without all this fancy stuff. Now I found out that it costs $4,000 or $5,000 to do a Lapidus. I didn't even know that. I learned that at the APMA meeting. So there's credible things out there. You just have to do it. When you're the patient, you got to make the steps that are different. Tell everyone, sit in your waiting room. I mean, do you still have magazines? Do you offer Wi-Fi to your patients? Do you have videos? Well, you shouldn't explain anything. I'm happy Gene's in Annapolis because next time I go to the boat show, I'm stopping by. But I love Annapolis.
Well, I do want to piggyback off the videos. I do a lot of YouTube videos and I do patient information videos.
Ben, you do a lot of videos that are all over. But what if you made a 3-minute video explaining heel pain and a 5-minute video explaining an aroma? And then when you have a patient with a heel pain and an aroma, you hand them the iPad and you say, okay, I'll be back in the room in a couple minutes. And they hit play and you see another patient.
That's exactly what I do with some of the intrinsic foot exercises. I made a YouTube video. I have them review the video and then I review the exercises after they've had a chance to practice.
You don't need to do it a second time. You give them the video, you're done. But if you're
sometimes they have questions. Sometimes they do have questions.
No, answer the questions, but don't explain it again. Oh, you sell time for a living. It's the only thing you do. Gene took a lifestyle change to go move for more time. And the only thing on this planet that's fair is time. Bill Gates has just as many minutes in a day as Elon Musk, as Ben Pearl.
In the interest of time, and I got to get to this, everybody's talking about retail foot solutions. How does podiatry remain competitive? And I want to hear 2 big points from both of you. And we know that we have to educate the public. I mean, that's obvious about the differentiation between what we do and what foot retail box store does. Gene, you first.
I'll go first. So in some ways, they're our best friend because when you look at what they're charging and you look at what they're getting, the success rate has to be pretty low. So the good side is we can only shine in those ways. The bad news is now they're gun shy, they're bitter because they spent $1,200 to $1,500 getting these over-the-counter inserts that they thought would be their life-saving, and they don't get their money back. So I think it comes down to I make my patients realize they need the inserts, not because I say they need them, because I do something that's going to make them feel better, just like the insert. So everybody in my practice who is going to get an orthotic gets strapped. Simple low dye strapping. Go walk around for the next 6 to 8 hours. If it works, I can look you on the eyes and tell you the odds of my orthotic helping you is very strong and very high, and you'll come back and I'll make you an orthotic. If it feels good early, you get a hard insert. If it feels better later, you get a soft insert. If it's in the middle, it's going to be just right. It's Goldilocks and the 3 bears. So it has to be just right. That's how I use that to my advantage. Secondly, as I see them, they'll say, oh, well, your insurance does cover this. So if I can show you it's medically necessary, it's not coming out of your pocket. But how do you deal with this? I think it starts on a state level. Our state societies have to do something to educate the public. We have to put something on our websites. A true custom orthotic is this. This is how you know if you get it. It's a problem because it is taking business away from us. But I will flip that to my advantage. Hey, you try my tape. If that helps you, my insert will work better than that because you tried theirs and it didn't work.
Am my understanding this is a company that does orthotics?
I'm sorry?
In your area? Is this a company that makes foot stuff for people?
The Good Feet store is the one that's a big competitive.
Great way to beat all them is I always offer a 100% guarantee on my orthotics. If it doesn't work and you follow my list of 10 steps, I mean, I've given money back to 3 people. I mean, in 20 years. So that's a quick thing. Today, I heard on the radio about these copper socks that are now orthotics because they can fit in shoes. They call them orthotic socks.
Yeah.
Crazy. Orthotic is a prescription device, and people need to go to the Federal Trade Commission. You got to let your state bitch about this, and that should come to an end. The other thing you can do is put videos up about what it really takes to do orthotics, good alignment, positioning, slow motion video of people walking. Use that, and then tag the name of that company in the thing. So when anybody searches that company, your video shows up. A little guerrilla marketing. So people get the
I'm bringing Bret out of retirement. He's going to come work for our group.
Oh, love Annapolis. So that won't be hard.
Like Al
but those
Pacino
are
and
the
The
little
Godfather.
things you guys can
bring him
do
back
to
in.
make a huge
Gene's
difference.
going to bring him back in.
You look at who your competition just when you think you're out. Godfather 3, but just when you think you're out. But there are incredible opportunities. I love when somebody. God, you spent $1,500 of that. Did they take you to the cleaners
Exactly.
or something? Oh, I don't like that I paid the money. I
will tell you one
bad
quick
tigers.
vignette. I did talk to one of the retail places and said this clearly wasn't working for them, and they did agree to, because it had only been 24 hours, to actually refund the money, and they can change them out for shoes. So if it's really a misfit, that's another option.
Everybody should pay on credit cards, and then you fight the payments.
Right.
No big deal. It didn't work.
We're in the last 2 minutes, and I want to just summarize 3 main points that I got out of tonight, and then give you guys each a minute to give, or 30 seconds to give last word. So what I got out of tonight is, number one with the pillars is be enthusiastic, have a smile. Number 2 is on fighting or being competitive with some of the retail outlets. Don't forget the low dice strapping. Number 3 is that we work better in strength together than we do as individuals. And that's something, I'm a part of that group too, that Gene referenced. So it's a really good marketing ideas and balancing codes and staff issues.
So take that company, that group, and find another group in California and do it on Zoom, because they might have a totally different perspective that might help you. When the guy took over changing IBM, Lou Gassner, he said, how many people do we have working here from Northern California, where everything was happening in the computer world back in the 90s? And they said, nobody. He said, we need new voices.
We got 30 seconds for you, Bret. Last 30 for you. 2 other pillars that you would add to the take-home points.
Well, I would do an automatic response system. I'd use something like Get Response, or one of these email things where the patient gets an email, welcome to my practice, nice to see you. And then you don't even think about it. But then 4 weeks later, everything's going great. Do you know anybody else with foot problems?
That's great.
I even made VIP business cards to hand all my patients. Same phone numbers, but they think they're a VIP, so they don't throw it out.
Gene, you got the last 30 seconds. Go.
I'll take them. We run a code at the beginning of November. Everybody who's gotten L3000 gets a note. Your HSA is going to expire. Your insurance deductible starts over. If you're having foot pain, come in to see if it's time to remake your orthotics. The return on that investment is spectacular. And by email, it costs you pennies. That's number 1. Number 2, we give them a little coupon that says, hey, if you want a second pair of orthotics with this scan over the next 3 months, I think it is, we'll reduce our fee, because most insurances only give you 1 pair, to half of what you paid for the first pair.